Good morning. This is Frank with Crazy Farm Living, and it's going to be about almost 100 today. So we're out in the morning trying to do some work before it gets too hot. And one of the things on the agenda is to kind of straighten this carport up and move it. So about a month ago, we had some severe weather come through, and there was a slight tornado that like starts spinning over here, broke a whole bunch of trees, ripped off roof tiles, and so we're trying to get things repaired. But one of the things it did is bent over the carport. So we're getting a brand new one, but we'd like to repurpose this. Normally people just take them down and scrap them or try to sell them, I guess. But what we're going to do on this one is replace the braces on it and then put some supporting boards and try to drag it across some uneven terrain about 500 feet to where our cargo containers are at, and use it as a over covering for our tractor equipment. Okay, so you can see we have a strap here that we used to help the carport not fall over. And then on this side over here, I have a tractor bucket, and it's leaning against the side. And so what I'm gonna do is start removing these existing braces. They just screw on with a 5/16 screw. So I'm gonna take those off on both sides. The tractor will be here. I'm gonna tie it to the end of the tractor to make sure that it doesn't fall over anything, which it shouldn't really, but just in case. And then I'll use the tractor to straighten it up, and then we'll start putting these brackets on to replace these broken ones, and that'll re-support the structure. When we take the tractor, we'll put a level on here, make sure it's standing straight up, and then we'll start unscrewing and re-screwing in these brackets. So these brackets, that I got it from the manufacturer of where we got the carport, was 3 feet for 10 of them at $100 for all of them. So pretty inexpensive. And then you just buy some screws and a little bit, and we're good to go. So let's get started. All right, so I got the 10 old brackets removed, and I have this arm tethered to the tractor bucket hook, just to make sure it doesn't fall over either way. I'm gonna start up the tractor now. I'm just gonna push it until it looks like it's in the correct position. Then I'll get a level, make sure it is, and then once it's straight, then I'll go back and put on the brand new braces. Okay, so normally these carports are held down by either mobile home anchors that you can unscrew the bolt and take those out, or by 3-foot pieces of rebar. So one of the ways to help get the rebar out is you can get a crowbar and go under the bar and lift up the structure, or you can use pallet forks if you have a tractor or skid steer, which I do. So I'm gonna go with that because that sounds easier than the crowbar method. So we're just gonna lift up the structure, and that should pull the rebar out, and then hopefully I just pull the rest of it out by hand. So let's see how this works. Okay, so those are pretty firmly in there. So what I'm gonna do now, which we won't be able to record, is I'm gonna lift it up, which would take some of the pressure off of it when I set it back down, and then have my wife, which is really the true muscle in this relationship, she's just gonna yank those things right out of there. So we'll give that a go, and then we'll just report back to see if that works. I'm gonna move it with the skid steer, and then we'll just do that again until it pops out. So we pulled all of the stakes out, and then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to support the structure to prepare to move it. It's an 18-foot wide, so I bought 20-foot wood that I'm going to use for a brace, and I bought these hooks, and they're 3 inches by 7 inches with a bolt. And then what I'm going to do, which is I have an example of here, is I took this, I put it nice and tight to the side. I used the hammer and just tapped it so I could see where the marks were at. Drilled a hole through the board, slid it through, put the bracket on, and then we're gonna tighten these down. And then hopefully, when I do this to both sides so that it's sturdy enough to move without hopefully twisting the unit as we drag it about 500 feet across the property, we're gonna take the skid steer underneath this board and then use the forks to lift it up, and then we're just gonna drag it.
I mean, the goal is to not have to take off all of the roofing, all of the siding, and disassemble it, move it back over there and reassemble it. So I'm trying to cheat a little bit to get this thing moved to the other side of the property. If you drill and you're not straight, or it's too much of an angle, of course, then I can't get the bracket on. So I'm gonna pull it out and just re-drill this. The first two went on really easy. These two, I want to argue, but I think we're good now. Okay, the braces are on. Hopefully they're tight enough that they won't slide up the posts. And so what we need to do is we need to take this thing and kind of pivot it like this. So I'm going to take the skid steer and push on this front corner and try to push it back. Come over to that side, try to pull it forward. Push it back, pull it forward. We'll be kind of watching to see how much it bends and everything, if we need to add one more support in the middle. But hopefully we need to turn it, because what we need to do is go this way. Because of the trees and the house, you kind of go on this side of the property, almost all the way up to the front, all the way across, and then behind Big Blue. So hopefully going up there, coming across, and then making a big U-turn, the structure will stay intact. That's the goal. So let's give it a shot. All right, so the board started sliding up as we're trying to pivot it. And when I'm putting the forks underneath, it's so long that the wood is bowing back and forth. And so I thought, instead of trying to lift it up in the middle where the wood is bowing, because I'm afraid it might snap, I put on 2 straps. And then we're just gonna try to use it to drag it over there. And hopefully the straps will allow the skid steer more maneuverability without it sliding off of the board. And so the straps are coming over the board, going around the bottom of the bottom bracket on the back side. So it lifts it up from the bracket and pulls it forward, and hopefully it'll also help hold the board down. And so now we're gonna give it a try and see if that works. Here we go. Well, it actually moved here without tearing it up. So thumbs up, double thumbs up for that. So now we're just gonna shimmy it into place. So what we're gonna do now is we're taking the straps off, we're gonna take the boards off, and then I'm gonna take the pallet forks and I'm gonna just slowly move this over, then go over to that, push this way. I'll try to do it by hand, but if it doesn't work, then we'll just get the tractor, the skid steer, and move it over. Because my wife would like this close to this.
Exactly.
So she doesn't want a gap, she doesn't want this gap here. So we'll take everything off, we'll move it over. Then it's just about leveling it off, putting bricks underneath it if we need to, and then hammering the rebarb stakes with the sledgehammer back into the ground for support. And then it would have been moved. So hooray for that, praise the Lord.
What'd you learn about?
What I learned that the forks, when you lift it up, should be facing down, because when you're facing up and you get too close, it pushes on the roof. So I crushed the front, just the design board that hangs down there, so I'll straighten that up.
But this is really not the pretty one. The new one that's being replaced because this one got storm damage would be the pretty one, so I don't feel too bad about that. But good learnings, and we'll just get this last piece wrapped up and then we'll be done.
Thank you.